That will be the first question I will ask our guest. He has joined us. He's ready to hop aboard from Bowen on the Birds. Longtime Eagle beat writer Les Bowen here on Birds 365. All right, LB, let's go right into the deep lane. How the Eagles going to stop Christian McCaffrey?
Well, that's a very good question. I think he's most effective because he doesn't just run the ball; he catches it and runs with it after the catch. They've been pretty good against the run, except for that one game recently. But it's there's a lot with this offense that you have to stop. I don't think it's just McCaffrey. He's certainly the key. He's the catalyst, I think. But you got to worry about Ayuk. You got to worry about Debo. It's Kittle. It's going to be this will be the toughest test for the Eagles defense overall. And I don't know how they're going to get this done, frankly. It bothers me that the 49ers are really good at throwing the ball over the middle, which has been a huge issue for the Eagles all season. And I don't think they're likely to become real proficient at stopping it suddenly this week. So,
it's ironic, Les. I think they've gotten slightly better, even though maybe it doesn't show. I think Byard was better dealing with Dalton Kincaid. The numbers maybe weren't great. And I think Bradley Roby has settled down the slot issues, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this is sort of like the Eagles are figuring out how the other half lives when Dallas Goedert's healthy. It's usually opposing teams going, what do we do? Who are we going to stop? Now the Eagles got to deal with it. It's like, who are you going to take away? And all right, if you want to take away Christian McCaffrey, here's Debo. Here's George Kittle. Here's Brandon Ayuk. It's pretty impressive, that offense as a whole. And Kyle Shanahan, I don't like him as a head coach because I think he makes game management mistakes. But when it comes to play calling and play design, there's nobody better in the NFL.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that is something that we have struggled with watching the Eagles. The first halves, particularly lately, Sunday's game would complete disaster for the first half, and then a very efficient second half from the Eagles, very good play design. But, this is going to be a game where, we keep saying this over and over and over and over, but at some point it's going to be true. You just can't spend the first half, handing the ball off to guys that are trying to block and, missing every throw and looking for stuff that isn't there. And,
So where are you on Brian Johnson? Because I got an amazing amount of fire Brian Johnson at halftime of the Bills game. They're 9-1 at that point. They're 10-1 now. I mean, there's got to be all right, you can criticize a little bit, but he's not doing a terrible job.
Obviously, you're not going to fire him, but I do think these are issues. I mean, we all see it. It reminds me a little bit of the Jonathan Gannon debate last season, where everybody looks at the end result and says, well, what's the problem? And we all see the problem. I mean, and maybe some of it is Nick. Maybe it isn't Brian Johnson, but you do need to use motion a little more than they do, I think.
They used it to walk off. That worked.
Yes, they did. Yes. You do need to have a hot read on a blitz, which is something that over and over again this season that has been a problem. And it really looks to me, and this might be an incredibly uneducated, stupid opinion, but is Jalen Hurts being prepared properly for what he's going to see every Sunday from the opposition? I mean, he goes out there and they're trying to run plays that the other team is all over, and he's looking downfield and he's not finding stuff early. And then they go in at halftime and kind of reboot and everything works out. It's not quite that neat, but it just seems to me, I just wonder if they are really doing the kind of preparation that you need to really, get off on the right foot and be, efficient from the word go, or whether they're just sort of feeling their way through this. And, oh, okay, that didn't work. Well, let's see, what else could we do here? That's why it looks to me, John. I don't know about Brian Johnson. I mean, we were both ready to, burn down Michael Clay's house, and now they have excellent special teams.
Yeah,
so we're wrong. I don't know.
Here's let me throw this one by you. I don't think it's preparation. I think it might be predictability.
Yeah.
That other teams kind of got a good grasp, and sports players, coaches, everybody in general hates when you use the word guess. That if you're guessing, if you're a hitter and you go in and you're guessing fastball, you get a fastball. Oh, I didn't guess. That's just me. No, you guessed. Yeah. You guess all the time when you're playing sports. And the offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator, mano-a-mano matchup, every week in the NFL, there's a whole bunch of guessing involved. Maybe they're just guessing right against the Eagles. The Eagles have a tell that this is what we're going to do early in the game, and the other team has the ability to decipher it ahead of time and be ready for it. And when they take away the tell and they just go, yeah, we're not going to stick to the scripted play that we came up before the game. We're going to let it just rip. All of a sudden, the Eagle offense kicks into gear. Are they too predictable, Les Bowen?
Boy, that's a good question, Jody. I think you might be onto something there. Certainly that bubble screen is, every team they've played is all over that, is like waiting for it, like, please run it. And they still do over and over and over again. I don't know when the last time was that it really worked for big yardage, but
Les, I don't know if you saw, but Brian was asked about the bubble screen. Now, Jody knows my deep love and devotion for the bubble screen. I hate it. It's the ugliest play in football. People talk about brotherly shove. I think it's the bubble screen. I think it's ugly. But here's the thing, Les. Everybody runs it.
Yeah.
Did you watch Monday night, Chicago? They just ran another bubble screen. They ran it 15 times.
Did they block it better than the Eagles seem to?
Probably. But here's the thing that Brian said, and I have to give him credence on this. He said not all bubble screens are created equally. Sometimes you're trying to make a play. Sometimes you're trying to get out of a bad play. And he said, you might have the numbers. You thought you had the numbers in the box, but you don't. So you change it to the bubble screen and you get 2 yards instead of losing 2 yards. And then again, the walk-off play, that's a fake bubble screen. It's actually Jalen Hurts has the choice. It's an RPO. DeAndre Swift was going out to run the bubble screen. 3 players went his way. He went to the quarterback draw, touchdown. There are reasons, and you work and you play off of it, but man, it's an ugly play. So I get it. It's aesthetically unpleasing, but it's sort of like modern football. Everybody,
but I do think they are predictable, and I think they could do a lot more. I don't understand why you can't just throw a slant to Brown almost every play. You just don't see it enough. You saw it a lot last year. There are a lot of things that they just don't look for that bother me. I would look to run the ball to the left side where there's Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson a lot more than they do. They did that with some success last Sunday after several failed attempts at running it to the right side with a substitute right tackle playing. They're just things that just puzzle me. They really do.
That's where I was going. Thank you for quasi beat me there, Les. John brought it up the other day. I guess Baldy had a great video breakdown on it, that the Eagles run too much to their right. Last year, behind those 2 guys on the left side, Dickinson, Mailata, it was as good a side to pick to run in the National Football League, any team. And they're not doing it near as much this year. And they didn't do it in the first half either. No. They were still running to the right because I guess that's the way they lay it out when they put their first 15 plays on a game on paper. But then the second half, number 1, they ran left more. And number 2, they used Swift more. Because you got to get Gainwell his touches early in the game. They even went so far as to give Boston Scott a bunch of touches early in the game.
Well, he had two.
So do you
and he
think
did really well on those two, by the way. I'm not
think it's a Sirianni thing? Do you
Yeah.
think that Sirianni is the first 15 plays? That's his baby. Johnson nods his head and goes, "All right, coach, that's what we're doing. No, it's your team." And then after they get through 15, that the offensive coordinator's got more to do with the actual play calling.
I don't really know. I don't know how they do it in their meetings. They probably arrive at some sort of consensus on the first 15 plays. And then after that, it's the offensive coordinator, as you're saying, saying, okay, I think we should do this. But I think Sirianni still has input during the rest of the game. My solution has been to let Jason Kelsey call the plays, but that probably won't work out.
As long as he doesn't call those penalty plays.
As long as he doesn't false start.
That's kind
that
of
was weird. Did anybody else think that was weird? The second one in particular was almost imperceptible to the human eye.
Yeah.
Is something going on there? Are teams like being pressured are refs being pressured?
I think Jason does that little trick with the football.
Yes.
And I think, people are trying to make the officials very aware of it. So maybe it's partially that. He did admit that he committed 2 false starts.
Yeah.
But that's Jason. Would have been interesting if Jake Elliott missed a field goal, if he would have admitted it. Yeah. But typically he does. I think he would have. But it's to call it in that situation, if you're not calling it, he does it all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened, because I didn't go back and look at it that closely, the 2 false starts. But it was the little ball trick he does. Why aren't you calling that earlier? Why you can't just
suddenly decide? Yeah.
But to get back to back, well, let's talk about Jake Elliott. I didn't think he was making that kick. Les, is he the best kicker? David Akers, we all know, tremendous longevity. Brandon Graham just passed him for the longest tenured Eagle, but they've never had a kicker like Jake Elliott.
No, they haven't. And David Akers was wonderful for his era.
Yeah,
but I think just like quarterbacking, kicking has kind of, the level has gone up over the last 10, 15 years. I really think Elliott he makes longer kicks more routinely than Akers ever did. Akers was better at tackling returners, which they used to like, no, stop doing that. Stop doing that. You're going to get hurt. But he loved that, man.
Jake's a better golfer, ping pong player.
Jake's a great athlete.
Great
really. People don't
understand
this because he's a small guy. But I remember the first time I saw when Carson Wentz used to do that softball game. At
unbelievable softball player.
First time I saw Jake Elliott play shortstop, I was like, this guy looks like a major league shortstop. He's a very good athlete.
Yeah. People joke about it all the time. He wins everything, no matter what they're doing. Jake Elliott wins it. It's unbelievable. He is a tremendous athlete.
Again, my apologies to the Eagle fans here on the stream who want me to pom-pom wave and only point out things that would be advantageous.
They always want the pom-poms, Jody. Get the pom-poms out.
No, I got to ask a question that's not pom-pom like. AJ Brown has had 2 less than stellar production weeks the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that has to do with the other team saying, you're not beating us. We're doubling you. We're going to bracket your ass. It's not happening. So, Jalen, you better be able to throw it elsewhere. And guess what? Jalen has. But AJ doesn't always handle not putting up numbers well. Sometimes with verbal assaults of his quarterback on the sidelines, others with quotes after the game. Coming into this game, San Francisco missing Keisha Talafung out of the lineup, so their secondary isn't going to be as good as it can be, but it's pretty damn good. They got one of the best defenses and one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. What are they going to do about getting A.J. Brown the ball this week?
It's a good question. Like I said, I'd throw him those slants. He's bigger and stronger than the guy he's going against in every situation there. And maybe with Fred Warner lurking, you maybe don't want to do that as much this week. I don't know, but I was glad they got him the little touchdown catch last week. It was a 3-yarder, but it was a touchdown catch for AJ, and I thought maybe that would appease him somewhat. You're right. That is something you need to worry about. He's probably the only guy on the team that you really have to think about keeping him happy. I don't think Devontae cares right now at this point in his career whether he gets the ball that much or not. But AJ certainly does care. And I think they probably need to think about that after you said 2 straight weeks of, other teams kind of trying to take him away. They're going to need him this week. I mean, I think if he only has 1 or 2 catches this week, I think they lose. I mean, I think he's their best receiver, and I think he has to play well against the only offense in the league that I think matches up, pound for pound with the Eagles, except maybe on the offensive line.
But is it a coincidence, Les, that, when AJ has a little bit of a down period, Devontae's going for 6 and 99 and then 7 for 106. To me, it's just like, they're trying to take away AJ and they go to Devontae. I think that's been a strength of this particular team. Now, when you don't have Dallas Goedert, and there's some rumblings, we'll get a better indication this week. I find it hard to believe Dallas is going to try to play this week, but
it's a long season. I really, unless he's like totally healed, and I would not do that.
And that's one of those things where players say, "I'm ready to go," and then the doctors say, "No, you're not. Settle down a little bit." I think that's what's going to go on this week with Dallas Goedert. But as a whole, they've kind of struggled without Dallas Goedert, at least for 6 quarters, and they finally got it going in the second half against Buffalo. They played a lot of 4 receiver sets. Julio's not getting the ball.
I guess he just doesn't have anything left. I would have thought that would be something they'd go to right away, but we haven't seen it. We really haven't.
We haven't seen it. All we see is a bubble screen for nothing each week. Olamide had the big touchdown, but that's completely off schedule.
Yeah, it was.
Schoolyard play. Jody's favorite player, Quez Watkins, is back. He gets nothing.
I forgot that he played in that game.
Yeah, he was out there.
I didn't look for him in the game, and then I saw in the stats, he was in that game.
Got 15 or so, did nothing.
Quez Watkins played more snaps than Nolan Smith. Enough said.
Do they need to get a third person involved, or is DeAndre Swift running the football, doing some things? Is he the third guy? Is it even needed?
You could make a running back the third guy, but I think you can throw to those guys. You can throw to DeAndre Swift. You can certainly throw to Gainwell or Boston Scott, who's, I think, a very, you don't want to overuse Boston Scott, but I think you can. He's a veteran. He's not going to screw up. I would make more use of him than they do. But that's a good question. They threw once to Jack Stoll and he caught the pass. Maybe you could do that a little more. You don't.
Jack always catches it. Last year they threw it to him 7 times when Dallas was out. He got all 7 of them. 7 targets, 7 catches.
And they have these other tight ends around. It's like they're there for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, they're not. They're supposed to be pass catchers, right? Calcaterra and Alvaro.
Well, Grant's hurt. He didn't play. He's in a walking boot.
I didn't know he was in a walking boot. Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how he is. Last week he was in a walking boot, so doesn't look.
But even when he wasn't, it wasn't like they were trying to get him the ball.
Yeah. Albert Agwegbanon, I'd like to say that.
Got that down, Johnny? Very good.
Impressive.
I mean, he did some things in Denver, hasn't been able to get involved. Does that surprise you at all?
It's a team like this, it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, you expect a guy like that to get more opportunities with a team that was really struggling, that didn't have the weapons the Eagles have. I mean, I think he's got to stand on his head in practice really to get into the game plan very much here. I guess that hasn't happened. I don't know. And they also have Noah Togai.
Noah Togai. Yeah.
Togai,
yeah. He's back. He's trying to threaten Julian Vanderbildy, I guess.
For most times on and off the roster.
He's got a ways to go. He's got a ways to go to catch Julian.
Yeah, that's for quick that John will appreciate the reference. Lest my nod or listen to my the 14-time world champion of wrestling. You know what that means? You lost 13 times. So if it's your 8th time with the Eagles back, you know what that means? They cut your ass 7 times. So I don't think it's the kind of bragging that you want to do, that you continue to come back to the team.
Speaking of which, what's Richard Rodgers doing these days?
He's got to be somewhere.
We talked about great softball players. Richard Rodgers was a phenomenal softball player. Yeah. He was a great baseball player.
He had big dick power. Is that what you're telling me, Richard Rodgers?
Okay. Richard Rodgers was walk-off Carson Wentz home run champion. Yeah. Tremendous power.
Did not know of his power prowess.
They kept. I'm convinced they kept him around just to play in that softball game.
Well, I thought he did okay. I mean, I thought he was pretty reliable when
he
pulled in.
He did. Every time
he's one of those guys, and it's a rare talent. It's like being a pinch hitter in baseball.
I say it all the time. I love that.
Toss you in there, and you can be productive. Yeah. That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
All right. If I told you, Les Bowen, that you had a chance to wager on this upcoming game, and that they would give you 100-to-1 odds that if you could pick the player on the Eagles or the 49ers in the secondary who gets an interception, who would you put your money on?
Well, the 49ers don't have a lot of interceptions. They're not a big ball hawking team.
Nor are the Eagles.
No, are the Eagles. That's right. I'll probably take an Eagle just to be. I'd probably take Slay. I'd take Slay.
How many interceptions does Slay have this year?
2 or 3.
I don't know, but he's a guy that looks for them, and I think he'll get some business this week. So a lot of teams go away from him, but I think the 49ers have enough weapons that they'll want to. He'll see the ball this week, I think, more than he usually does.
I'm going to go Kevin Byard.
That's
now that
good.
They have Kevin. Yeah. Kevin's he's a playmaker when he gets the opportunity. He's got good ball skills. Why not? I'll go Kevin Byard.
Makes sense to me.
I wouldn't go Byard because Kittle's just nuts. If Kittle has to, he'll crush Byard. If Byard got a chance to get a pick, Kittle will keep that from happening. He'll turn into a defensive player like that.
That's true. He's a great athlete, George Kittle. Tremendous. I remember back in the day, I used to get killed for that. When Zach Ertz had his big catch season last, what was it? 1/3. It was an absurd number of catches.
The record, yeah.
And I voted for the PFWA All-Pro team, and I voted for George Kittle. Eagles fans were incensed. They found out pretty quickly, he's a pretty good player.
He is a very good player. It's a great era for tight ends.
Yeah.
It really is. Some of the best ever, I think, are in the game right now.
Yeah. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews is hurt right now. TJ Hawkinson's tremendous. Dallas is tremendous. Dallas Goedert, a lot of good tight ends. Yeah. And the Eagles tend to struggle with all of them. The opposition.
True too.
Yeah, Les, this may surprise you. You know how many interceptions the Eagles have as a team this year?
Maybe
6.
5 or 6.
6. How many do you think the 49ers have?
7, I think.
I think I just looked it up. It was 15.
No, I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I could have looked at the wrong column in the stat thing. That's certainly very possible.
Who's got a bunch?
San Francisco.
Fred Warner. They get INTs from their linebackers.
Don't listen to me.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, San Francisco's at first in the NFL, where they're
Oh, okay.
Turnover differential.
Well,
They're plus
never
11.
mind.
Plus 11. Eagles are -2. They're
Yeah,
plus
they are.
11.
Yeah. Because they
Yeah.
have these weird turnovers every week, like that's one thing I'd like to see Jalen get better at. It's not really a quarterback's fault when a ball gets batted and it's intercepted, but as a guy who isn't 6'5", I think Jalen needs to be cognizant of the defense, the rusher having his hands up, and you need to, do what Drew Brees used to do and sort of find your lane there and not just throw it into the guy. Michael Vick used to drive me crazy with that. He'd throw it into the rusher's hand. I mean, like he thought it was going to go through, somehow.
A little too confident in his own ability to laser thin get one through. All right, let's before we let you run, need to get you on record. I asked Mike Gill this question. I'm going to ask it to you the same exact way, so you pick or choose what way you want to go. The Eagles will win because blank. The Eagles will lose because blank. Pick or choose your blank and fill it in.
Oh, okay. Well, I have scenarios for both, but I'll just take win for the fun of it. They'll win if Jalen Hurts decisively outplays Brock Purdy, and if the Eagles' defensive line decisively outplays the 49ers' offensive line. Those are the two keys
where I'm
for
going
me.
last.
And those are the two most realistic. I mean, all kinds of things could happen. They could have a Britton Covey punt return for a touchdown or something. But those are two things that are possible, that are very possible.
We should give Britton Covey his love. How good has Britton Covey been this year?
It's amazing.
The coach did the other day. Coach went out of his way to put Britton on a pedestal that he's earned.
But I also think they're blocking so much better.
They are. And that's where Kaylee Ringo and Josh Jobe come into it. Haven't done well in the secondary, but their special teams are a lot better. And those are two big reasons for it. The game inside the game. Nobody likes to talk about special teams. At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on X, or formerly known as Twitter. Bowen on the Birds podcast. I'm going to be on there.
Yes, special guest John McMullen this Friday. Yes.
This week? You're sucking Johnny Mack in this week?
Indeed. It's a big week. I have to have a heavy hitter there, Jody.
You're a smart man, Les Bowen. I got to give you that much. All right, it'll be a pleasure. Always thank you much for hopping on board. We'll punch up again in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Les.
Pleasure. Les Bowen, a major guest addition to Bowen on the Birds this week.
He's slumming.
Johnny Mack jumping in with Les Bowen on the Birds. All right. He's slumming with me here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald back to put a bow on the show.